I want to move, but I need a visa. And then they start looking for that. And then they don't understand, they get the timing, but when am I going to go? So all of these decisions happen in their minds at the same time. And that's a recipe for disaster. So the the ideal expat journey is you have this idea.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlick, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Deborah. Deborah, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So let's give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Okay, so I'm Deborah. I'm an expat coach and intercultural psychologist. That's the work part, right? Because I'm many things, work-wise. And I help people prepare for a move abroad and adjust after arrival in terms of making decisions, making sure they're on the right track, making decisions on where, how, what, who, and when, basically.
Now, all the questions that they never thought about on their own. So,
Exactly.
how did you get into expat coaching as your thing? That is fascinating to me.
Well, I have a background in marketing. Okay. So I did my undergrad was business administration. I did the MBA thing. I was the marketing executive. And I was fortunate enough to have lived from the very tender age of 1 year old in from 1 to 28. I had lived in 5 different countries, sometimes by my choosing, sometimes not by my choosing. And that international experience had always been part of my reality because I'm what the people call a third cultural kid, now a third cultural adult. um, and when I finished my MBA, I moved, I was doing it in Spain, in Barcelona, and I got a job in Lisbon, Portugal. And on paper, my life was picture perfect. But I struggled for almost 5 years. I didn't understand why I wasn't adjusting because I had lived abroad before, right? I mean, it's not like it was new to me. I spoke the language because I'm originally from Brazil, so I speak Portuguese. I even had family here, and I couldn't put my finger on it, and I ended up leaving. I quit my job. I was a marketing executive at that time, working with pay TV, and even in exciting things like at that time, this was 2001. Oh my God, I'm giving away my age, right? This was 2001. And I was, working with interactive television. This is like the beginning of the internet, right?
Mhm.
And after 4, almost 5 years, I didn't feel it. And despite everything, I left. I went back to Brazil, took a downgrade in my marketing career, and rebuilt my career. And 8 years later, I find myself moving back to Portugal for personal reasons because I got married to my husband, and he's Portuguese. And I realized that I couldn't do things like they were before because it hadn't worked, right?
Right.
Um, and I realized that I needed to figure out a way to do things differently. I didn't know how. So I went back to school and I got a master's in intercultural psychology. And I did it first and foremost for myself, I must say. I did it because I needed it. And I had no idea this area existed. I had no idea even that social psychology existed. Um, and it really opened my mind. I learned so much about what happens when we move countries that it helped me so much. And I kind of have this business thing in my veins that I was like, maybe I can help other people, and maybe this can be a business. So I got a coaching certification, NLP certification, training certification. I built like kind of like my toolbox to give me not only personal experience, but also credentials to actually be able to, because what works for me might not work for other people, right? Because everyone's different. So I actually got all these tools that helped me bridge the gap between research and theory and practice. And since 2016, I've been working with people, helping them prepare for a move abroad with the things that you wouldn't think about, which because when people,
which in some cases is nothing.
because people think that moving abroad is
Everything.
okay, you decide where to want to live, and then you get the visa, you get the paperwork, you do you find the school, and yes, that's part of it. You find the you find the apartment. That's of course part of it. But I kind of like to make this analogy is like kind of building a house. The paperwork, the bureaucracy, that practical things are the walls. That's what you see, right? Mm-hmm. But if you build a house on a foundation that is not sturdy, very quickly cracks are going to show up, right? So and it's kind of like you're building a house and you haven't even thought, like you go to Home Depot, you buy 5 faucets, but you realize later on you only have 3 bathrooms. So like you wasted money. So that's what I help people with, like figuring out what they're moving for, how to make decisions, how to prepare financially, because I bring this business project management background to the mix. Nice. So it's not what you think it is. I like to say.
Well, and I think if you're going to build your house out of paper, you better be moving to Japan because there's not a whole lot of other places that can handle that. Well, and I think this is hilarious, awesome, and amazing because when I was 23, I moved up to Inuvik in the Northwest Territories in Canada. So I thought, oh, another move, different day. Not realizing as I'm flying up there, and this may seem kind of irresponsible, but I didn't realize that it was going to be 24 hours of darkness. I just noticed that as the plane kept going up and down, that it was nice and bright and daylight up there. And then when we landed at certain destinations along the way, that it was pitch black still. Like, oh, right. Yeah, I should probably have known that. Now, this is back in the days before the internet, yes. And I mean, we still had Encyclopedia Britannica. I could have done a little more research than I had done. But yeah, I hit culture shock like it was smack up against my face. And I did not see that coming doing a move inside my own country. I can't imagine what it was like doing one outside of your country. Is that kind of lessening with the internet and with, cultural norms? I think people are moving a lot more and traveling a lot more than they did back then somehow. Is it kind of sort of getting better, or is it still very much when somebody moves, they can hit complete culture shock?
Well, yes and no. So the fact that we're globalized and you can watch, a series from Korea, from South Korea and on Netflix, from Portugal, from Spain, from Mexico, from Canada,
Brazil.
that
Yeah.
Brazil, that lessens the first impact. That might lessen the first impact. It depends on
A lot.
because you can see things, you can watch things, but not see them. You know what I mean? It can just go over your head. So it
like it's
depends
going to
on
be
how,
pitch black in Nuvek in the middle of winter. Yeah.
sort of, yeah. So you can say like
Yeah.
you're experiencing that, you're seeing that, but you're not experiencing it because you really only experience it when you're there. I like to say that nothing like a one-way ticket to hit reality. Because when you have a return ticket, everything is easier. That's why scouting trips, everything is wonderful. And because you're going back to your comfort zone, right? A one-way ticket is like, okay, this is real. So in a sense, yes, it can lessen the initial shock. However, there are many symptoms, and I say this lightly, because it's not a technical term, of cultural shock that people don't know that are cultural shock, that people don't associate with that phase. First of all, people say cultural shocks. And there's no such thing as cultural shock. I mean, in the literature, intercultural psychology, it's a phase, right? So it's a period of time, typically after your honeymoon, and it's kind of like marriage, to be honest. Like there's and marriage is the same thing. But there's the honeymoon, and then there's the time of like, okay, this is routine, and you're not traveling anymore, and you realize that you don't have the budget to go out to dinner every single night, and like things start to get real.
Yeah.
And one thing is to give you an example of one of the quote unquote symptoms that people don't realize that can be cultural shock is many people have the experience of the gringo rate, right? When you go somewhere and you're charged more because you're a foreigner. That happens everywhere. Try taking a cab in any airport in the world, you'll feel that. Okay. That's universal. But there's one thing that one of the members of my membership told me, that she said, "Oh, I'm not experienced cultural shock. It's fine." But then we started talking, and she said, "But there's one situation where I really feel a little bit frustrated." I was like, "Okay, what is it?" And she was telling me that there was a bakery across, like on the corner of a street, where she would go every day to buy bread. And she's like, "I have this nagging feeling that the lady there just sells me stale bread. And I don't know the
Probably not wrong.
language well enough to assert myself to say, no, I don't want that loaf. I want the other loaf.
Yeah.
And I don't want to offend. I don't want to seem like obnoxious that I'm choosing my loaf of bread. You know what I mean?" And I was like, "Yeah. And you're telling me you're not experiencing a cultural shock phase. That is textbook cultural shock. You don't feel comfortable interacting in the local culture. You don't know the social norms well enough to speak without being afraid that you're offending someone.
Right.
And you're feeling that you're being taken advantage of."
Yeah.
So these things, I don't think that the exposure to other cultures on a superficial level prepares you for.
No. So when you're working with somebody, is it beneficial to kind of go, "Hey, I'm thinking about maybe doing this like 2 years down the road"? Or is it kind of like, "Hey, I'm here and my furniture's not, and kind of having some issues with this"? Like, where's your ideal phase to be able to come in, and why?
Okay, so definitely not the second option. Typically, when someone has the desire, like something happened, they talked to someone, they read an article about moving abroad, something sparked their interest. That typically is like the seed has been planted. Now, the way you go from then on might determine your success or not success, whatever that means for people, can mean different things for different people. Because what typically happens is that people have this idea and they mix up all of these decisions. They start looking, I want to move, but I need a visa. And then they start looking for that. And then they don't understand, they get the timing, but when am I going to go? So all of these decisions happen in their minds at the same time. And that's a recipe for disaster. So the ideal expat journey is you have this idea, talk to someone, it came from somewhere, and you start researching in the right way. You don't go to social media and groups and ask, or no, you actually think about, okay, and how do you research? First, internally. What do I want to move for? What is the purpose of this move? And I would say, honestly, this is true for any change in our lives. We just apply it to moving to another country. I mean, I would say this is true for changing jobs, for changing relationship status, for anything. But you ask yourself, okay, what do I want to accomplish? How do I want my life to be better in a new place, whatever that place is? And then once that starts to establish, then you start doing your research on places, and the places will be usually very interconnected with the bureaucracy, because some places are easier to move to, others not so much. That also has to do with, it's kind of like a puzzle that you work the pieces and you start creating that image. So, okay, financially, what is my financial situation like? Does it make sense to move now, or do I still have to mortgage to pay, or do I still have to wait for my kids to leave college or whatever? So you start, and these decisions intertwine in terms of timing, in terms of finances, in terms of location. At some point after this research, you're going to go all in. Your chips are all in, and you say, "Yes, I'm doing it." And that's kind of like the turning point, and that's when you start working on the paperwork, the visa application, the housing, and all that. After you've done all that research, what people do is quite the opposite, and then they send me emails saying, "I have all the paperwork, everything's done." And that's a lot of work to get that done, and now I'm second guessing myself. I don't know if I really want to go. I was like, now you're
No.
sending me this email. But that's normal. That's normal
No.
because you don't know what you don't know, right? How many people have done this before? Not that many. And even if you have done it before, we're a different age. We have different priorities, a different financial situation, a different family situation. So no two moves are the same, even to the same country. And I can tell you that from experience. And so there's a right way to do it that makes the pieces of the puzzle gel better together. That makes sense.
Absolutely does. Well, once upon a time, I decided that I wanted to move to France, and I had heard that they were selling castles very cheap, and I went, "Oh, this is fantastic. We will go and look." So it was kind of like going onto the realtor site and checking out what castles are around, how much they cost. I went, "Well, these are really cheap." Okay. And happened to click on a link to get to, understanding what the laws of expatriation in France are and how this has evolved. It depends on what your
Mm-hmm.
country of origin is. Are you moving to get married or blah, 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 blah. And finding out there's a whole schwack of paper load involved. But the big thing that got me was I went on to Google Earth to look at where these places were. And I realized that the really cheap ones are in the middle of nowhere. Going, okay,
Yeah, that's why they're cheap.
I happen to have a Home Depot like 5 minutes from my house, thinking, oh yeah, well, it'll be a little fixer-upper, right? It's like the nearest anything is like miles and miles away,
Yeah,
and to get labor and I went, I'm going in with a whole lot of assumptions that are not true. And I am gonna
absolutely.
hit that wall so hard that, yeah, it's time to kind of back up and think about a few more things other than just that. So
Absolutely.
is it, I get that people go in with glossy eyes and going, hey, like this is going to be fantastic. Right now, the big trend is, hey, I want to become a Canadian because I want to get on the States. How does that, like being able to talk to you and understanding kind of why somebody wants to leave, like how does that change their perception on like from that glossy-eyed honeymoon phase to, okay, there's some realities I got to take into account here if I'm going to do this.
Yeah. So for sure. I mean, the glossy-eyed and the desire to move, I think you need to have that because it's a lot of work. It's expensive. And if you don't have that fire in your belly to make it happen, you won't really, to be honest. I mean, um, some people lose that fire when they realize what's involved. And sometimes, in terms of, like you mentioned, paperwork and costs and change of lifestyle, many people idealize living abroad. And when they realize that they might be, I don't know, far away from elderly parents and not being able to be there, as quickly, or far away from grandchildren or from, children, and it's not just a 3 hour drive, it's actually it's expensive, it's a plane ride, whatever, then they start to think about, but that's a good thing because you're doing it with purpose, with a mindful way, and not just jumping off the deep end and then realizing you don't know how to swim. So I think that this desire is necessary when working with me, or part of my membership. People realize that you can do things in a structured way. And of course you can do it. And by all means, I don't want to remove that dream from people, because that's what motivates us. But in order to make, it's kind of like, a goal without a deadline is a dream sort of thing. A dream, if you don't know how to put it in practice and how to make certain decisions, you're just going to spend a buttload of money, spend a lot of energy, and most likely get to a place where you're really not happy because you haven't thought about what makes you happy. Right. Another issue is that people have this dream because they're looking too much about what they want to get away from. We've seen this a lot, like an escape, right? And while it's kind of like two parts of the same equation, really. We have push, and this is like a technical term, but we have push and pull factors, right? So things that push us away and things that pull us toward whatever we want. And this is true for almost anything in life, and this is no different. The difference is that when we're only looking at what's pushing us away or what we want to leave behind, it's kind of driving a car looking at the rear view mirror. Yeah. You're going to crash.
Exactly. It's not going to be pretty at all.
So you have to look at the two sides and look what you're moving towards and what you want to build there, if that makes sense.
So in a moment, I'm going to ask you about a Cinderella story of one of your clients, or a multitude of them. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. Are you an expat looking for an income opportunity that suits your lifestyle? If you're looking for something that you can do from almost anywhere in the world and earn an income in US dollars, you'll want to set up a 10-minute meeting with me. We're looking for people who are used to making over $10,000 a month and are looking for the right vehicle to make that happen again. If this sounds like you, open up a browser to awareness.business. Nope, not .com, just awareness.business, and book a time that works for you. This is 10 minutes that's worth your time. Let's see if we're a fit for each other. So I'm super excited to hear about a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Yeah, so what I can think of very recent is a couple, and they wanted to leave. They were from the US. They wanted to leave the US for reasons that many people, I think, can relate to at this moment. And their first, when they started working, when they started participating in the membership, all they knew was, I want to leave. That was it. And I think I want to go to Europe. And I want to leave tomorrow. I was like, okay, that's not feasible, right? So the first thing is that, and that's how we actually work inside the membership, is there's a pre-move roadmap and a post-move roadmap. So, remember I was talking about like the ideal expat journey, and that's what we have in the Expat Journey Program. It's like, okay, you have this desire to leave, right? To move, to live somewhere else. The first thing is to think about the purpose of it. And this is a tricky one, because what happened with them tends to happen with a lot of people. We get fixated on the reason why we want to move. I want to move because this is bad. I want to move because this is expensive. I want to move because, and that's okay, because it's part of the problem. But okay, how do you want to see your life? Because the lifestyle you want will inform the decision of the location, and not the other way around, right? So you can only know where you want to live if you know how you want to live.
Right. There are
And
places more expensive than where you are right now, I assure you.
exactly, exactly. And not only that, but do you want to live in an urban place? Do you want to live in a more rural place? Do you want to live, off the grid? Uh, there are many different options. And they were like working through the program, through the roadmap. And I remember that they hit a snag with the location because there were so many options suddenly. Then they went on a scouting trip and suddenly there were so many options, and too many options can be overwhelming, right? So, they work together and it's like, okay, again, let's narrow down into your non-negotiables and just focus on your non-negotiables. And one important thing I don't know if your listeners know this, but typically when you move someplace else or move abroad, I've seen this in my 10 years working in this space, where people land is not necessarily where they live longer term. They end up renting first, and then they might even purchase a place or rent a place because you don't know enough about the location to make like solid decisions, but you have to make a decision to land, right? So removing that fear of making a mistake was also something important. It's like, okay, let's just pick a place given your preferences and your non-negotiables. But it's not that big a deal if you have to move a year or 2 years later, because you will know better, you will know more. And just 2 weeks ago, I got an email from them saying that their visa was approved. So
Yay!
it was like the textbook journey that you want to have, starting with, I know I want to go. That's all I know.
That's awesome.
Until, like step by step. And so it was really beautiful to see that, because it takes, and look, I do my part. I give the structure, I give the framework, but the person has to do the work. I can't do the work for them, right? I mean, they have to actually, plan financially. They have to consult with tax specialists. They have to go there. It's hard, they
Right?
have to downsize and decide what to pack and not what to pack, and say goodbye to friends and family. So I hold their hands, I guide them, but the work is there. So it was really nice to see. And I was really happy when I got the email saying that, I think in next week they're going to go on the flight to actually, move. And she already was telling me that she knew that the place where they were landing was like, yeah, I already know I'm not going to stay there maybe a year or something, but until we get our find our way around the cities, and then we might move to another place. But that's what it's about, like you learn along the way. You never know everything, you never know the big picture. And one thing that I told them, and I think it's really interesting, is like, I remember we had one-on-one calls, and one of our first conversations, I said, you know what, you guys don't want to move abroad. And they were like, what? I was like, no, 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 no one wants to move abroad. No one in their right mind wants to move. It's such a hassle. But what you do want is to live abroad. The moment you internalize this and make this mindset shift of, I don't want to move, I want to live, then the penny is going to drop and things are going to go smoothly.
Nice.
And it was true. It was true. It was fun.
That is awesome. Well, I know for some people we have planted seeds of, ooh, I can be an expat. Sounds like a fabulous idea. And others are going, oh my God, I need you. I'm in the middle of the turmoil. So, how do people start their journey with you, and yeah, how do they get started?
Well, I have a membership called expatjourneyprogram.com. Just go there. It has everything people need to plan their move abroad and adjust after arrival. We have a complete pre-move roadmap with financial aspects, with location aspects, with how to get started with bureaucracy, how to make these decisions I was talking about, and the post-move roadmap to make sure that you're thriving abroad, because it's not about moving, it's about thriving abroad. So everything on how to integrate, how to learn a new language, how to make friends, how to make sure that this decision is successful, whatever success is for each person. And we have live workshops, we have live Q&A sessions, master classes. We have a directory of service providers that offer help from everything you can imagine in terms of the practical aspects. We have career coaches, shipping companies, pet transportation companies, educational consultants. We have tax specialists, financial planners. I can't even remember all the categories, because the idea is to be the one place where you get everything you need for your move and life abroad. Nice. And the directory is a curated directory, and every one of the businesses offers special deals, discounts, exclusive for members. So if people are thinking about moving abroad, even before they made the decision, because the first stage in the pre-move roadmap is making the decision, even if they haven't decided yet, then that's the perfect moment to join.
Nice. And if there was ever a time where a community, being surrounded by a community of like-minded people who understand what you're going through, is beneficial, to say the least. I won't say it's necessary, but it will solve a lot of problems.
Absolutely. We have a community. And I just launched last month a new feature called Pick My Brain. So members can send me a video or audio with a specific question, and they get a personalized answer in their inbox. So there's no excuses.
I love it. Awesome. Well, peeps, we will, of course, have Deborah's link in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, open up in a new tab at least, or a new browser window, because we're not done yet, as you know. So, Deborah, I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. You see, it's interesting that when I worked in many companies, multinationals and all, and people, sometimes the conversation about, having your own business would come up, and I would say, not yet. I would never say no. I would say not yet, not knowing that there's like something there. I don't know. I think I reached a point in my corporate career that didn't mesh with what I wanted out of life. And I just said it just made sense, and I wanted to create something unique. I have never seen, I've seen other expat coaches that do mostly one-on-one and other programs, but I wanted to create something that I wish I had in my moves. I didn't find it. So I created it. And the only way to create it was to be an entrepreneur. So it was kind of like the obvious choice. It was a no-brainer in that sense. I really didn't think about it too much in that sense.
I love it.
It was just
sounds
organic.
Like one of those whatever you call it, that the spies use, and you slowly have to figure out one thing, and then it locks, and then it locks, and then it locks, and then the whole thing unlocks. It's like, yep, we're ready now.
Yeah. And I can't
Awesome.
think about, I can't, for me, everyone listening who's an entrepreneur will know that I work way more than I did in corporate. But I love not having the internal politics of corporate. I love not having, I love the flexibility, even if that means 3 a.m., working on the computer. But I love having the flexibility of that. But it takes a certain type of person, I don't think everyone has the fit for it. I'm very disciplined. I'm very, I tend to be okay with figuring out things on my own. So I don't need people I do need people to explain things to me, but I know where to get that information. I'm not passive. And you do need a growth mindset. You do, absolutely, or else you will just die.
Absolutely. I love it. You've been absolutely awesome. Thank you for your time. I know how valuable it is. Any last words for our peeps?
Oh, no, I mean, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm very passionate about this topic, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And, I think that if many people have on their minds that they want to be in another country, and I think that's a great idea, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons. Because there's actually a statistic from PricewaterhouseCoopers that I collected when I was doing my market research, and that was on the HR review. And in corporate settings, up to 40% of international assignments fail. And each failure in the corporate setting means that the employee went back to their original country before the designated time. That each failure, quote unquote failure, cost the company $330,000 because
Oh,
of the perks and all that. Now, if we're doing that on our own, that's our money.
yeah. Wow.
So, I mean, moving and saying, if it doesn't work out, I'll go back. That's fine. I mean, I've done that before.
Yeah, we've all done that.
But yeah, but as we grow older, it becomes more expensive, not only financially, but energetically and physically. So it's kind of like preparing properly with me or anyone else. I don't care as long as you prepare properly. Is almost as an insurance policy, because
Right.
you mitigate your risks of things going.
And that speaks volumes because I would think that if you have a job to go to, you have a community to go to, you have somebody that's familiar with them, like, oh, what could possibly go wrong? Don't ever ask the universe that question, by the way. And that, that there, if 40% of them are still finding it, then clearly there's more to it than just that. And it's up to
Absolutely.
you to figure out what that is and start with Deborah. Seriously. I wish I had that 30 years ago. Wow.
Me too.
Awesome. Again, Deborah, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I do know how
Thank
valuable it
you.
is. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Peeps, thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show, share with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow and expats.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.